Hey, just a quickie. It's just before sunrise, towards the end of October 29th, I think. Portugal's about to go into a 4-day lockdown on local travel between provinces. On Saturday, tomorrow, I'm going to pick up Luke from the airport. Alexander's come down with a little bit of a temperature and been unwell for the last day and a half. Weather's cool, and yeah, I'm enjoying doing the gardening. I love being in the garden. I've been doing a little bit of woodworking, made a bench and a wood box for our fire, which has become the center of the bus because it's so nice and warm. But enough of the update stuff. I wanted to, it's like these are unprecedented times. There aren't books that we can read about the stuff we're going through and what's going to happen next. We can theorize, but we don't really know. And we have all these wonderful ideas of how the luminaries, the solar system, as they call it, is going to bring about certain energetic shifts and changes and upgrades and consciousness arising and awakening, and so many people are coming awake. So many people are waking up, and I think a lot of people are coming to the realization that government deception is much more than just a dodgy politician with a sex worker or something like that. It's they're coming to terms with the idea that maybe there is something coordinated and something completely out of touch with the reality, and we've got enough good doctors telling us that there's no clarity about how germs work, how viruses operate, how things are transferred from one person to another, if they can do that, and all the nonsense that comes with the mask wearing. Anyone who sort of simply goes along with the agenda to stifle people, and I don't just mean on the platforms like YouTube. I mean to stifle the breath. Anything that goes along with that is instantly, thrown under the is a complete sellout. Anything that stands for that, whether or not they've just simply bought the propaganda and they're not smart enough to check the data for themselves, or they're actually complicit in some kind of conspiracy. It matters not. Matthew 24:24, even amongst the elect will be deceived at the end of times. And there seems to be an awful lot of deception going on. So the people that I'm about to finger are not necessarily knowingly deceiving. And of course, I've said over the years, who knows how much of what I've genuinely thought to be true was deception. And of course, I raised my older children on millions and billions of miles of light traveling through the darkness of space and then hitting the atmosphere and reheating. All that. I really believed it. So, these guys are not necessarily intentionally misleading, but they are misleading people in my view, and therefore it needs to be spoken about. So when a guy like Brian Rose operates on the basis that the best economy is one where the marketplace is thriving, and by that I mean the FTSE and the Dow marketplace is thriving, then they are unwittingly or otherwise batting for the system, just a maybe a slightly cleaned up version of it, When Barclays was caught out for the LIBOR scandal, oh well, we'll just clean that up and we'll carry on, basically, and the system just carries on, and it does that with these change agents who look like David Icke and others. It is, as much as I've learned from David Icke, and I do respect the journey he's been on and so on, I just think, like, while we're not realizing or willing to acknowledge that the entire setup of the city, the system of putting people into these essentially concentration camps, where you pay basically for everything, including your data tracking device. And more people I hear about, getting their movements tracked by data tracking devices. You remember when they first came in, oh, find your phone, keep an eye on your child, go and track a Pokemon around town. Now it's a device that can be used to punish you for stepping out of line at the wrong time, not in accordance with the dictatorship's requirements. So I think even Jeff Berwick, the dollar vigilante, these guys still want a marketplace in which extreme wealth can be made from simply taking a pot of coins or numbers on a screen and moving them over here, and then going for lunch, and then after lunch moving them back there, and you've made $25,000. Nice day at work, huh? You see that it's that kind of click and receive kind of mindset that I'm afraid Brian Rose is certainly more than happy to continue to propagate. I think where we are all wounded is that we were all raised in a viper's den, in a cage in which our parents taught us what they'd been taught about shortage and war and hardship and fighting for and wanting to be ahead of the others. And so, a puppy that is starved is going to spend most of its life never quite shaking off the wounds of that early experience. And all of us have had that early experience. I think all of us, pretty much. Certainly, if you're listening to this, you've been through a life journey that's much more similar to mine than that of a Khoisan desert dweller, in the Kalahari. So I just think that people pumping the kind of get on the Trump train or just vote for me, I'll go in there and ask the Queen for permission to set up a government, and I'll do it all differently. Politicians never like to tell you that there's permanent secretaries who stand over them, really, who are the kind of the permanent guy in the job. You just get to come fly in for 2 or 4 years or 6 months or whatever, and and get to be the kind of figurehead. But really, the agenda is much deeper than the guy you voted the ballot box. Yeah. I'm not saying that we can necessarily, unless we have this cosmic shift that brings about some kind of change in the whole dynamic of the human psychology. I can't see that we can dispense with the cityscape anytime soon. But I think we need to acknowledge what the city is and begin to acknowledge the truth of what has been done through ages. And, until you start really upsetting the apple cart and really forcing people to face the ugly truth about who Churchill was, what Hitler represented to the New World Order, how our history goes back 200, 300, 400 years before we have some kind of seismic shift in the paradigm, how the Darwin deception was created to get humans to hate themselves, to minimize the creation, the creators. Until we're really pouring a light on that stuff, guys, then we're really still in the business of just creating like a fear energy and an anxiety perhaps that diminishes the soul travel, which is probably why they've got the business of the mask and all the stuff about breathing and social distancing and so on. Anyway, I don't want to make this too long. I've got limited bandwidth, whatever access. I hope you're well, and the sun's starting to rise back there. It's beautiful, beautiful moon this morning. Well, through the night, traveled right over the bus, just in front of it. This is south, and all the way through the night, you can just watch the moon move over the sky, move through the sky, with I think Mars in kind of conjunction or sitting side by side like this, pretty much. And beautiful to watch. And as you'll know, as I always say, you'll see as the moon travels across the sky, it doesn't do that. It does that. It rolls. Not a matter of perspective, is what my friends always are trying to tell me. It's simply, no, this is doing that. It's doing that. You can observe this for yourself. We can surmise how that's caused and so on, but it is turning. You won't get taught that at school. I mean, that's it. The whole of the education system, the whole of the reason for the education system as it stands is more about controlling, creating the citizenry, and so you really to begin to unpick it all, and you would have to be courageous enough to show people what has been done, the intent behind it, and where we are. When I say that, I realize that a little bit like Brooks in The Shawshank Redemption, most people would say, no, listen, let's just leave the prison as it is. Don't kill the warden even, because I just want to continue at this level of relationship with the system. I don't want to have to unpick all of my stuff and probably these politicians know that they don't need to encourage people to unpick this stuff. They can just rely on the fact that most prisoners are Stockholm Syndrome and would much prefer to stay that way. So mostly, I think, this is going to be a long-term thing. I was asked recently, why? What are you doing it for? You think you'll get it sorted in this lifetime? I'm doing it because it feels like the right thing to do, and humanity needs for good people to stand up and do something. How long it takes is not something that I have any control over. The fact that, it is just at this moment in time that I do better, I think, resting, learning, preparing, than shouting at this would appear to be an insurmountable beast. And then, until the moment the time is right to help some people, help more people, help the cause of the human trajectory or the consciousness trajectory to help in whatever way I'm called to do, then I will do that. But all of this has been designed to maximize the disturbance in your life and the discord in your life. So many ways, so many arguments, so many points of difference and contention between people, let alone with this dystopian system. So, do the opposite. Be peaceful. I should end it there.